And welcome back, everyone. It is currently snowing where I am, but you didn't come here for a forecast. You came here for the Greycast. I am your host, the Williams Room Yu-Gi-Oh! Champion and ECW World Heavyweight Champion, Super Kami Will. And today I have come to talk to you about one of my favorite childhood TV shows, Power Rangers. Now, if you're not TikToked in the head and you have watched TV when you were a child, you probably know about the Power Rangers. It started back in like 1993 or 4 with the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and I think it's currently on its 27th season on Nickelodeon. I mean, that's pretty fucking insane when you think about how long it's lasted. I started watching in the late 90s because when the show premiered, I wasn't even born. So it took me a couple of years to get old enough to where I really got into it. I started in Space. That's one of my all-time favorite Power Ranger seasons, and it's actually where the original 6 seasons, I think, of Power Rangers, like the original couple seasons of Power Rangers, had an overarching story that lasted years and multiple team changes, and then ended in Space. And then after that, you get the yearly new season, new cast, not really any interconnecting story plots. Every once in a while, you have the team from last year comes and helps the current team for one episode. But when it originally started, although they didn't plan it to be that, it was an overarching story. Now, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, I watched a couple episodes here and there as a kid. I think I had some VHSs of the recorded episodes that I would just watch over and over again. So there's like a solid 6 episodes that I just really would just watch as a kid. And after that came Power Rangers Zeo, which is the Power Rangers series I have like the least, from when I watched, had like the least time spent watching it. I don't really remember much about it because I didn't really watch it. So it's kind of just that one season that I'd like to one day go back and watch, but also probably never will. After that, then is Turbo, which is I think I originally started like at the end of Turbo. Like I started getting into the show right when Turbo was ending, where I was kind of like, this is like a fun show, what's happening? And then it's like, oh, a new season's out in Space, and that's where I started. In Space is one of my favorites. I mean, I love the cast. I love the Zords, the costumes, the villains. I love the plot of the show. Like, it's, for me, it touched on a lot of like more mature themes than the original Power Rangers seasons did. I mean, the villain of the show is a woman who was kidnapped as a kid and like brainwashed into being a villain. That's pretty dark if you think about it. And it was a great show. And it's also the season that they kind of transitioned to stop pretending like these 20, 30-year-old actors are still in high school. Because during this season, it was always like stupid when you see the main cast walking down the hall of a high school and they look old. Like they're taller than everyone. They look like they're shaving. It was just so disjointed, and I'm happy after this season, for a time being, they just went like, yeah, let's just make the characters, the Power Rangers themselves, just like, grown-ups. I also think this is like, for me, or from what I've seen, like the beginning of the golden age of Power Rangers. Maybe not the golden age, I would say the silver age. Because the golden age is obviously when Mighty Morphins first started, and it'll probably never get as popular as it was, like, back then. But this is the beginning of the silver age. I would say between like maybe In Space all the way up to Time Force is when it really, for me, when I was like blown away and captivated by this franchise. I was buying the toys. I was buying the actual video games when they came out. I remember playing, I think, a video game on my Nintendo 64, a Lightspeed Rescue game. I love the Megazords. I always try to buy as many as I can. I think Lightspeed Rescue is the one. I guess Lightspeed Rescue is the one I bought the most merchandise for. I bought every Megazord in that season as a kid. And I think I bought all the actual Rangers themselves as well. Let's take a step back. After In Space came Lost Galaxy. Now, Lost Galaxy was their first. It's when the formula started, like I said before, where it's a brand new cast. It's not really connected to the original Power Rangers series. There's like kind of, I think it's the last one you see of Alpha 5, like the little robot companion that's been in the series up until this point. But this is the first season where it was like, hey, this is just a new cast. You have no idea who any of them are. They're just brand new Power Rangers. And it was a great start because episode 1 or 2, I think it might have been 2, the Red Ranger dies and his little brother has to take over the mantle. And again, like I said, I think this is like when they're touching on more mature themes where the main Red Ranger is the little brother, the real Red Ranger, and he's throughout the series battling, like, I shouldn't be in this position. I'm not good enough. I'll never be as good as him. And this season also had one of my favorite Power Rangers, the Magna Defender, who had the darkest backstory in all of Power Rangers, where his origin story is he was an alien from another planet, and the villain of the series came, killed everyone. And they made it like, this wasn't like, oh, they destroyed. They were killed. He came and wiped out all life on the planet. And they even do a flashback where they show the rubble in the streets of destroyed buildings. Things are on fire. There's bodies on the floor. And the darkest part, the Magna Defender's son is killed on screen by the main villain. I'm talking about the Magna Defender is about to destroy the main villain, and the main villain, his henchmen, bring out his son and is like, if you don't stand down, we're gonna kill your kid. And that's where he's like, okay, and they just start beating him. I mean, he is on the floor, they are kicking him, he is down, they throw his son on the side so that more people can go and beat him, and so his son stands up, takes out a knife, starts charging to the main villain, and the main villain just electrocutes him and dies, and then they just leave. And so his backstory ends with him crawling on the floor, crying, screaming out his dead son's name, and then holding his body. I mean, if that's not like the darkest thing you could picture for that kind of a franchise, I don't know what else they could have added. I mean, even to this day, to think like kid shows nowadays will never have that kind of thing happen on screen. And so I was blown away as a kid. I was like captivated. And so it was a good season. I enjoyed it. It kind of had a weaker ending for me, but an interesting one where the main villain dies like partway through the series, and then his daughter, who was kind of there but weak, kind of takes up the mantle and like morphs herself in this like evil, twisted villain. But I mean, it was a great show. Also, yeah, this season, tragically, the Pink Ranger actually had to leave the show, and this season had a lot of dark firsts for the franchise and onlys, where they had to kill a Power Ranger off because she got cancer in real life. I mean, she survived. I think, even today she's, living happily, whatever, cancer-free. But during the time, it was like, yeah, the Pink Ranger is killed off screen. They had to get a new Pink Ranger. It's like, Jesus, everyone is dying in this franchise. Or this season. And then after, we get, what is it? Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue. And this is a completely contrast from Lost Galaxy, where this is a lot more lighthearted, I felt. This is a lot of people's favorite. It had a lot of good characters. It was kind of, for me, this was in between two amazing seasons. So it always kind of dragged it down. I think as a standalone season, it really holds up, or is good. It was like a sort of like a rescue heroes themed, where it's like, a fireman, a police officer, a nurse. It's like kind of like that kind of a theme. It was good. Like I said, this is the one franchise where I collected, I think, maybe the most merch from the season as a kid. I love the Megazords. And the costumes were good, too. I wasn't the biggest fan of the costumes. I don't like the Umbrella Corp logo, like, in the chest. But it was a great season. Not a lot for me to say about it. Although this season did have another, where, like, they had an evil Sixth Ranger. And interesting enough, I think, in this season, this is their Sixth Ranger for this season was a U.S. creation. Like, it wasn't in the original Japanese Power Rangers TV show, the Super Sentai show. So that's really cool. And his backstory was that he was the son of the main mentor, who was, again, kind of like taken as a kid and brought up to hate his father and like want to destroy the world. So after this, you get my favorite season, Power Rangers Time Force. Now, Power Rangers Time Force is a defining show for me as a kid. I loved everything about it because I'm a huge science fiction fan. So the fact that this season centered on the Power Rangers, a team coming from the future, like as time police, Another season where the first episode is the Red Ranger is killed off, and so the other four Rangers go back in time and find a fifth Ranger in like whatever 2001 ish, like that time era when the show was out. And it was the only season, or not the only season, but the first season that really had a romantic, like a romance between two of the main Power Rangers, the Red Ranger Wes and the Pink Ranger Jen Scott, I think. I know in the original Mighty Morphins, Kimberly, the Pink Ranger, and Tom Oliver, the Green and White Ranger, they kind of went back and forth on maybe they'll get together. And then when she left, then the next Pink Ranger, Kat and Tom Oliver were kind of a thing. But this season, like the whole season, the romance in this was like heavy in your face. There was a love triangle later on, and I think the season ends with a kiss. But I love this season because the villain was named Ransack, and the whole thing was that in the future there are mutants. So people like the world evolves to a point where they're no more like babies in the traditional sense of like a man and woman. It's more along like Matrix where they're created to be genetically perfect, and mutants are exactly what it sounds like when they start mutating. It's like these monsters. So the villain was like a partial mutant, and it's interesting because for me as a kid, they showed two different backstories for him. One where he tells it where he came out as a mutant and he felt like a freak. People were afraid of him and they shunned him. And over time, that led to him like hating humanity and wanting to get rid of them. And so it was an interesting backstory because then on the other side, you had Jen, the Pink Ranger, go like, no, that's not his backstory. His backstory was we tried to help him. People did try to reach out to him, but he was inherently evil. And maybe that was because of the mutation. I don't know. I don't really, but it was. I like that kind of dichotomy of, like, I wonder which one's the truth. Like, and maybe they're both truths from both perspectives. Like, maybe that's how he felt like it was. Even though maybe intention was to help him, maybe he felt like they were shunning him and they were like, we have to fix you because you're deformed. And so that's what I loved about that. Like, there's so much to talk about this season. I really, like, I can't even talk about all things. The Quantum Ranger, the Red Ranger's arc between him and his father, and the Quantum Ranger. It was a really great season. It's the highlight. If I had to recommend Power Rangers Zone, I think I'd recommend this season to them as a starting point. Like, that's how much I love this one. After this is Wild Force. Now, when Power Rangers was created, it was created by Saban Entertainment for Fox Kids, and it was made from Super Sentai film footage, which is the Japanese Power Rangers, basically. But during this season, between Time Force and Wild Force, Disney purchased Power Rangers from Saban. So this is the first Disney Power Ranger season, was Power Rangers Wild Force. And it is a loved season by a lot of people. People really love this season. I gotta tell you, for me, it was a real... I think this was the first Power Ranger season for me that kind of checked out a little bit, where I might have missed some episodes and not really given a F about enough to go back and watch. So I don't even know if I know the story off the top of my head from beginning to end, how it plays out. But I mean, it was okay season, weirdly spiritual and mythical, but it's not a lot for me that I could talk to you about of the positives. And then after this, we get Ninja Storm. And I mean, I love Ninja Storm. Ninja Storm was, you could tell, I think for me, this is Disney's, because I think Disney was buying it during production of Wild Force, so it was still kind of Sabanish. Ninja Storm is the first Power Ranger season where you could tell Disney, it's been Disneyfied. But in this sense, in this scenario, a good thing, because it was a completely different tone shift for the series, but just so much fun. This season, was maybe the first fun season, where yes, there's a villain, he's trying to destroy the world, yada yada yada, but the main cast are really having fun, and there's playful banter. The villain is kind of cheeky and has some cheeky henchmen, but there's some darker henchmen too. But it was just a really fun season. Amazing cast. This season I don't think works as well without just such an amazing cast between the original Red Ranger, Yellow Ranger, and Blue Ranger, the Thunder Rangers, and the Ninja Ranger. Just an amazing cast. Their main like mentor was a hamster or a guinea pig, and he was like a human at first, but he was so you just had this like cartoon CGI guinea pig, like giving them wise lessons throughout the series. It was a really fun series. Like I loved it, and I think this is when Gene got in the series, because Brendan and the Boatsman Joe, they're not in Power Rangers. They suck. No one likes them. But Gene started watching Power Rangers here, and he loves it too, from everything we talked about. I mean, I remember when I first thought he liked Power Rangers, I was like, you fucking nerd. I knew you'd like Power Rangers. So, I mean, I guess I consider it like a season that maybe other people... It's another good introduction season for people who haven't watched Power Rangers. Like, it's a fun season. Not a lot of lore, I guess you'd say you have to know. Just a great season. Then after this is, not Ninja Storm, Dino Thunder, which was like their anniversary season, where it was like the first season since Mighty Morphin Power Rangers that was dinosaur themed. It had not a lot of old faces, just Tommy Oliver came back as a Power Ranger. For me, this season was good. I loved the White Ranger. I think the White Ranger in Dino Thunder might be my favorite Power Ranger costume in all of Power Rangers. I mean, it looks so badass, man. The white, which is like the black stripes along and stuff. The pterodactyl, like, quill dagger. It was a great costume. The Megazords for me in this season were... I don't know. This season, I didn't like the Megazords. I think that it's because, like, there was so much CGI in this season when it comes to the Megazord fights that I was just kind of like, eh. Well, the CGI wasn't for me. I don't like CGI Power Rangers. I like the old school people in costumes, like slow walking and like little miniature sets of like cities like slow punching each other. I'm not into the current Power Rangers where they just have like these really huge Megazords and like these CGI stuff. It's I never thought it looked good. But Dino Thunder was a good season. I'm trying to think where I'd rank it. It's like a mess season for me. There's stuff I like, there's stuff I don't like. The Power Rangers, like the actors themselves for the most part, were really good. I like the cast in this. But yeah, overall, I wasn't blown away with this season. After this is then... What's it called? SPD. So after this is Power Rangers SPD. This is Gene's favorite, I think, Power Rangers season. I think it is. And I like it too. It was a lot like Time Force in the fact that it was in the future. It's like an international like space police force, and they have Power Rangers as like cops. So it's like a team of Power Rangers, like a team of cops. And I think again the cast is great. I think this season had like you had a few of the Power Ranger actors who are really good, and then a few who I was just like meh. Like the Pink Ranger and the Green Ranger were kind of just there a lot of the times. Like the Blue Ranger, the Yellow, and the Red Ranger were, like they were the Power Rangers that I think had the most development in their characters. This also season had the most egregious act by Disney, where the Sixth Ranger, they didn't want to pay an actual actor to be the Ranger, so they just made the Sixth Ranger like a sparkle, like a little sparkle hovering around of light. So it would just be like a little light floating next to them speaking, and then when the fighting came, it would morph into an actual Power Ranger. And I'm like, it was fucking stupid as a kid. Like, really fucking stupid. Because I don't want to go too far into, like, the story, but the Sparkle was supposed to be a kid that they saved from the future. And it's just like, it was a great story, and they fucking ruined it by not casting an actor to have, like, them just talking like a floating sparkle of glowing light. So it was really stupid. I hated that. It was a great costume too, the Omega Ranger. It was just so stupid and just ridiculous that Disney was too cheap to just buy a Sixth Ranger like an actor. I also think this season had the most Power Rangers I think I've ever seen, where they had the original 5, the Shadow Ranger, the Omega Ranger, the Cat Ranger. I'm not joking. They had a cat alien. Basically, they had like a Neko anime girl who became a cat Power Ranger. Well, for like one episode, it was weird. And then they had, I think, not Omega Ranger, maybe the Delta Ranger. So they had 9 Power Rangers at one point for this season. That is a lot. Like, usually it's 5. Or usually it's 6. But then the season before this, the max they had was 5. So it was nuts that they went that balls to the walls with costumes. I guess it was just all for merchandising though. Now after SPD, I was getting older. Power Rangers was getting a little too corny for me when it comes to the route Disney was taking them. So after this was Mystic Force, which was basically like they were wizards with wands and capes, and they were casting spells, and they were talking to magical creatures like gnomes and witches, and it really it was too corny for me. I mean, I couldn't. This is the first season where I was kind of like, I think I'm just gonna stop watching. I maybe just tune back in like the past couple episodes. That's how I just cringy a lot of it was for me. And also this season, some of the Rangers and like they focused this season around the Red Ranger, who wasn't the best actor, you could say. He was very stiff, not a lot of emotions in his facial features. This is a bad season for me, but a lot of people like it. No, I think it's gotten better looked at over time, but for me, I'm never going back to watch the season. Also hated the theme song. Then was Operation Overdrive. This is it. This is the season that got me out of it. This is pretty bad. This season had something I really liked about it, which was there wasn't one villain per se, but factions of villains fighting. There was like 3 different factions of villains fighting along with the Power Rangers, and they were fighting each other just as much as they were fighting the Power Rangers. So that's interesting. The worst part about the season that kind of kills it is that the Power Rangers themselves were fucking terrible. The Red Ranger was an android who didn't know he was an android, but the actor was an android too, in the sense that he was not good at displaying emotions. They had Power Ranger who was a stuntman, and the joke was that he was like a nobody, and terrible. And then I think they had a thief or something as the Black Ranger, and then I don't even remember what the yellow and pink Ranger were like. It was just terrible. Some stupid alien was the Silver Ranger, and I didn't like the costumes. I didn't like the Megazords. I didn't like, besides the villains, I didn't like anything about the season. So this season was where I checked out. I after a couple of episodes in, I was done. I was like, every couple of weeks I'd go back and be like, oh, what are they up to? Still doing this shit? Whatever. And the next season was Jungle Fury. Now, Jungle Fury is really good. It was a lot. It had that same feel as Ninja Storm, in the sense that it was just really fun. All the characters were really likable. Costumes were cool. Megazords were cool. The villains were cool. The villains were getting... there were levels of villains, so there was the Daishi, and he got like a cool, like, not Ranger costume, but like an evil person costume, but he kind of looked like a Power Ranger, but it was really cool looking. It was like a lion. Great season, great energy, great characters. I loved it. I think this is... Okay, I think actually this is Gene's favorite season. I love it too, though. For me, it's up there. But this is a great season. I remember I was in high school with Gene, and we were seniors, and we had was one class we were kind of fucking around, and we were arguing in a group project about which Yellow Ranger was better, the Yellow Dino Thunder Ranger and the Yellow Jungle Fury Ranger. This kid in our group was like, are you guys talking about Power Rangers? How fucking old are you? Anyways, after Jungle Fury, we had my final season of Power Rangers that I kind of, again, half-assed, because at this point I was older and I was just not paying attention. It was RPM. Another dark season, kind of, where the world was destroyed. Like, it was almost like the war was lost. There was just one, dome city left. It was not like, I don't know if you guys know Dread, but it's there's a scorched world that's like a desert, and there's just one concrete dome city that everyone lives in. That's it for humanity. It was a great season, that. But I'm gonna stop talking about the season now, because after this, Disney was kind of done with it. They sold it back to Saban. Saban took it to Nickelodeon, and after that, I think 5-6 more seasons after this, they switched to breaking down. So instead of having one long season of 50 episodes, they'd have 2 seasons of about 25 episodes each. And they also did this weird thing where instead of doing one full season of the Super Sentai seasons, they would just combine 2 Sentai seasons into one Power Ranger season. So for the first 25 episodes, they'd be one Power Rangers group, and then the actors would get upgrades or whatever they call them in show to basically morph into the next season's Power Rangers as well. And then they also they kept changing. They took the original Power Rangers theme song and then just kept switching out Mighty Morphin Power Rangers to whatever that season's was. And every second season they'd be like, this isn't Power Rangers Mega Force. This is Power Rangers Super Mega Force. They would just put the word super on everything. And it felt generic. I don't really know what the show is like now. They sold the franchise back to Hasbro. But what I really want to talk about, 26 minutes in, is kind of the lore. Not the lore, I guess. Like just the other stuff besides the TV shows. The Power Rangers comics, there's a few out right now. I've read a little bit of it. I think the Power Rangers franchise, when it comes to the non-TV show stuff, is a little too stuck on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Like, that's all they put out. The comics, the last movie that came out, everything is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And I think people are starting to get a little sick of it or bored. I am. Like, I don't... There's only so much fluff that you could fill... like the little off stuff of the original series. Like, what were they doing between seasons 1 and 2, and what were they doing between episodes 3 and 8? It's like you gotta move on. Like, there's only so much you could fill. Like, it's getting boring now. They're like doing Mighty Morphin Power Rangers in another universe. This happened. It's like, I don't care anymore. I want to do something else. You have 30 years of Power Rangers. Choose a different team, which is what I want them to do for the movies. So now that Hasbro has the movie rights, they want to make they want to do a Marvel, a joint universe with their other franchises. So I think it's Power Rangers, Transformers, G.I. Joe, and some other properties that Hasbro has that I'm not really too sure about. But I think this is the perfect time. Don't give up on Power. I'm about to say give up. Don't give up on them, on Mighty Morphin. I think the movie should have Power Rangers Turbo, which were the car-themed ones. If you're going to have them fight the G.I. Joes, which the toys were synonymous with their vehicles, and the Transformers, who are vehicles, have the Power Rangers who drive cars. Because I would love, that's just corny to even think about, but I would love, the Power Rangers racing the Transformers, and they'd transform into the Megazord, and they'd fight the Transformers. It would be corny, but I think it'd be the good kind that would be, nostalgic, but also you really want to see it. Or that would at least look cool, on screen. Because the last Power Rangers movie, it had a gloomy tone to it. The entire thing was we're sad teenagers with here all our problems. No, switch it up. Do teenagers or adults who are having fun with it, who like being the Power Rangers. I don't even want an origin story. I just want them to be these are the Power Rangers. They've been active for maybe a couple years. But let's say so if it's Power Rangers Turbo, the movie should almost be a continuation in the sense that they beat the villain, I don't remember what her name was, the space woman, the space pirate lady. They beat her and they're just dealing with regular shit going on in the planet, and then boom, the Decepticons come. That'd be amazing. And maybe they fight the Autobots a little bit because it's hey, you're aliens on our planet and you look like the other robots, so you're just robots that are attacking and we can't distinguish. So they fight, and then there's that mid bro, what's it called, the bro class from the Predator movie, where it's oh no, but it'd be even cooler because it's Megazord instead of muscle, and they're oh no, we're the Autobots, we don't like them, we're here to save you guys. Oh cool, you're here to save us. Let's combine your Transformer tech with our with our Turbo Power Ranger tech, and then we'll be maybe the Megazord will morph around Optimus Prime, and then so you have a Cobra Commando enhanced Galvatron fighting Optimus Prime with Megazord parts. Now that's a franchise. You're welcome, Hasbro. You could take it. I'm not going to ask for anything more than 10% of the movie rights and just run with my idea. Please. That's what we want. That's what the fans want, and I'm a fan. So just cater to my needs, please. Because I assure you, I'm right every single time. And so this went a little longer than I thought it was going to go. But I really enjoyed Power Rangers as a kid, and I look forward to the movie whenever it's coming out for the reboot. And so I think I'm going to end it here. I want to thank everyone for listening, all you Power Ranger heads. I kind of swapped out Potter heads with that, but whatever. That's it, and we are out.